the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'd like to welcome everyone. At this moment, if you have not already done so, please silence your cell phones so that we don't have them going off. First thing on our agenda tonight is item B, which is recognition, and that is the Train and Gallagher. And I believe Ms. Rachel's going to take care of that.
I'd love to speak on this really fast. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. I know you all have worked with Train and Gallagher as a board. Dr. Holman and I reached out to them a couple of weeks ago to help support us in our upcoming PD and back to school days with our teachers. So just want to give them a shout out. Train actually has provided several $100s worth of snacks that our teachers will have on July 30th. We're having breakout PD sessions throughout the day, so they'll have snacks available provided by Train. So I wanted to give them that shout out. And then for Gallagher, on our guest speaker day, which is the 29th, they are providing a catered breakfast for our teachers. So I just wanted to share that and highlight Train and Gallagher so you all were aware.
That's nice. Thank you. I believe we have someone tonight for public input. It's Kelly Camp. You will come up.
I know that tonight there is, it's going to be brought up about phones in schools, an update on that policy, and I just am speaking as a parent of a high school student, a middle school student, an elementary student, and a teacher in the county. I just made a quick statement that I wanted to say. I'm not sure what the policy how we'll address the policy, but we can't tell parents how to parent their children when they leave our buildings. We are no longer responsible or in control of their well-being. But we can collectively, during school hours, give them back a childhood where they have to look each other in the eye, where they can have conversations at lunch, where they can show face-to-face concern and empathy for each other, where they can, for a few hours, live in the real world. We owe that to our children and to our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, are you advocating for no cell phones in like lunch and passing periods?
Yes, I am. That's why I'm advocating for that. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item F, which is approval of the agenda. Board members, please take a look, see if there's any questions, deletions. If not, we're going to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Oh wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if we could maybe take like 2 minutes to talk about the thing we went to last week.
Sure.
Can we add that
Well,
at the end? Or
We'll add that.
Just like 2-minute sharing, not too long, Lance, I promise.
We can put that under new business if you want to.
That'd be great, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Leakey.
Yes.
Second was Mr. Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Takes us to the approval of the consent agenda. I believe the only item on there is our board minutes from last month.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Schultz. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries as well. That takes us to the director's report. Dr. Alsop is
Okay.
sitting in tonight. Thank you.
Yes. The first item on the director's report is a report from our transportation director, Mr. Philpott.
Good afternoon. I'll give a little update on what's going on in transportation. One of the biggest things that we've done first part of the year is to implement a routing software system. I think we started it in February. We're still doing some training. But to tell you a little bit about that, the company that we ended up going with is called Transponder. It's one of the top companies in the country. One of the things they say is that one of every 3 kids in the United States is transported through a school system that uses this software. The routing part of the software that I'll talk about is called Route Finder Plus. That's the part that does the routing. We'll talk about the other aspects of Transponder in just a second. What is routing software? there's all kinds of different types of routing software, but routing software is a tool that helps plan the most efficient routes involving travel between multiple locations. Lots of companies use different types of software that are routing software, but ours is specifically for school systems and school buses. How does this system work? How does it work for us? Basically, it imports the data from Skyward. So all of our student data that's in Skyward is imported every night. I think it's at about 4 o'clock every night. We get updates from Skyward into TransFinder and RouteFinder so that it stays current. We manage this data basically through filters, and we separate this out. Usually the filters that create the routes are by bus or by address, basically. Once it gets this information from Skyward, it creates the routes, or we create the routes, and we can also set criteria in this system to manage those routes as far as what they call district policies. But the Route Finder will take these locations or student pickup locations and create the most efficient travel pattern to do that route in the most efficient way. The criteria that we could base this off of could be load times, speed on the roads, different group stops, so that every location doesn't have to be one single door-to-door stop per resident. And then we take, there's basically suggestions on this route, and we can make any necessary changes or adjustments that we need to make. Routing benefits, the most obvious routing benefits is efficiency, which could save on fuel costs, ride time reduction. We have limitations on how long students can be on buses, so if we can reduce their amount of time that they're on buses, that's a win for everybody. Ease of adjustments, such as overcrowding. We have some buses that are overcrowded, some buses that have a lot more vacancies than others, and this system allows us to see that those opportunities and make adjustments. Special ed route changes, that's going to be one of our best opportunities. On our special ed routes, these students are sometimes scattered all over the county, and making an efficient route for those students is a challenge. Just a change of adding a student or taking away a student can make a big difference. And this software will allow us to do that quicker and more efficient. Combining routes, if we see where there's not enough population in an area and some routes can be combined, then that would be an opportunity as well. And then the time restrictions that I just talked about. It also allows us to visualize and compare multiple routes. You can see on this map, and I think the next pictures of this is what our screen looks like as far as the route. This is an example of one of our special ed routes. The red dots are pickup locations, and this route only shows actually like 7 students. But if you can't see it over here, but in this screen to the left, it gives you all your information as far as like how many students we picked up, how many miles that particular route was, and the times that are tied to that route. This is another little closer visual to show how detailed the maps are. The map system that TransFinder uses is one of the top mapping companies that's available. Other benefits, TransFinder doesn't only offer us routing capabilities, it also gives us opportunities to organize other department functions. There's opportunities to manage the driver information, such as licenses, driver endorsements, physicals, and other training that the drivers have to keep up with and have to stay current with. Fleet management, it allows us to keep information as far as the buses, the inspection dates, and the dates that are coming up, so it's better to track that. Field trip scheduling, it allows us to better manage the field trips. And it also gives us opportunities for reports such as trip data, student data, directions. That we can print off a whole set of directions for each trip that the driver would normally be doing in a turn-by-turn. Challenges, the initial setup, which we're still in progress right now. We've been in it about 6 months, but the initial setup has been, it's challenging, to put it the least. I don't know how else to describe it. We've learned that managing the student data is critical. The information that we get from Skyward it's critical that information is correct. I mean, if somebody's got the wrong address in, then whenever it goes to route a student, they're not going to be where they say they're going to be. So that's a challenge, and I know it's going to be a challenge with our new system as far as the parents signing up their students. So that's something we're going to have to be in contact with. Addresses and the buses that are in the system as well. Drivers' reports that they turn in as far as their roster reports whenever they get new students added, that's going to be critical that they keep us updated as far as their changes to the roster. Map edits, that's probably one of the biggest challenges because the map system doesn't know, example as far as dead-end roads or roads that are too narrow to travel. We have to go in and make edits to the map to make those routes taking all that into account. So you got dangerous roads, dead-end roads, or just general roads to avoid. The product has different layers, and that's one thing that we liked about this. Route Finder Plus is the routing part of TransFinder. Viewfinder, we just started setting that up here in the last week. It's where other employees in the school system can have access to these routes. And I think there's going to be one person in every school that's going to have access to this, and that's going to be through Viewfinder. Stop Finder is the app per se that communicates with the parents, that keeps the parents informed as to information as far as what bus they'd be riding and the estimated time that the bus would be there. So if there was a change in that route, it would be updated to them. Form Finder just allows us, if we wanted to create special forms for Transportation Department, it's a tool that would allow us to do those forms. Optional, you may have seen this on a lot of other programs with such things like Wayfinder. That's where you may have seen where there's buses that have iPads on them, and or there's an app that the parents can actually look at the app and see where the bus is at the time. To have that, you have to have GPS on the buses. That gets a little costly, so I'm not sure if we'll get to that point or not, but that's a tool that TransFinder does offer. Also, Service Finder is just another platform for us to keep up with the service on our fleet. And then there's a couple more other finders. Everything they've got is called finders. So anyway, that's the short breakdown of our TransFinder routing program. You have any questions or anything?
I do.
Yes.
You just touched on an app that a parent could have or to perhaps check the location of the bus, but it would depend on GPS.
Mm-hmm.
Some other, I mean, I really think particularly since we're looking at no cell phones for elementary students in a policy tonight, and whether we'll pass or not, I don't know. That's later in the agenda. But I think parents want to know where the kids are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them depend on an app on a child's cell phone. And if that child does not have that cell phone, and I'm saying elementary, but I could see that middle school even, then I think they're kind of in the dark. So I believe it's worth investigating to see if we can't make that bus location available to any parent who wants to check on the status of where their child is.
I think that's a great tool. I mean, if it's something that we can afford. There's other things that come along with the GPS, such as if you have the iPads that are mounted on the buses. it does also the directions like a turn by turn. So if you had a substitute driver and they didn't know the route, it would tell them the turn by turn to where to go. And to take it to the next level, you could also have every student have an identification card, so that whenever they get on the bus, they can scan a card, and it keeps a listing of your role as to who's on the bus and who's not.
All of that, I think, is valid safety measures, and so why do we not have it? Are we going to acquire it?
My thoughts on this was to try to implement a little bit at a time and not try to take on too much at one time. These tools these services are available with that company, but I just think as far as, since are new to the routing software game, we need to get our feet wet a little bit, and we can add that on pretty much at any time as we get there. But
So is it budget, or is it just the direction you're taking as you learn and adapt?
it's just the direction I'm taking right now. It's not really a budgeting thing that I've really considered. But I'd say by this time next year, the routing part, we should be pretty fluent with that, and could move on to something else if we needed to, or if that was something that we felt like we needed.
Well, you've mentioned several components that are available for that tool that I think are extremely valuable. Is my child on the bus? Did my child get off the bus? Where is the bus now? Because I've got to hurry home to meet the bus. I mean, we're here to serve kids and their parents. So I think we need to make sure we're focusing on what's needed to be the best partner with them that we can.
There's also one that I didn't mention. It also has the capacity to send out notifications. So like if the bus wasn't running, we have our own notification system now, but this has a part of that too, where I could send out a message through that system to everybody that has that app to communicate with the parents. And they could even communicate back with me through that app as well.
So are we going to be using this fall?
The routing part, Linda and myself are doing the training on that. We've got all the routes built. There's a route for the morning and then the PM. Whenever we start back, I'll get the turn-by-turns from the driver the way they're running it now, and then I'll go in and update my routes to make sure that they're matched with what the drivers are doing. And then as time goes along, if they have any additions, then I update that. So I think this time next year for sure, we should be pretty fluent in that. We can't get too much into the next year because they haven't converted over into the new school year. So some of the seniors are still in the system, so their addresses are still in there. So whenever they convert that over, and I think we've been working on that this week with TransFinder, then we could go ahead and start with our new routes this week.
My only next suggestion would be shorten your timeline a little bit.
Well, I'm just saying this time next year. Hopefully it won't be that long. But,
And you may have already answered this, but are we going to have any students that are going to be displaced from one bus to another?
with this software, no. I mean, there's a lot of things that just by looking at the data that we've already, we've seen. I've noticed from as I'm looking through some of the roles and building the routes, one of the things that we see is our county map is the only access there, and you have to find their address points. So there's a lot of students that whenever I'm trying to find their address points, they were not available. And what that basically tells you is they're out of county. So we've discovered probably 10 students that are out of county that's riding the buses. So, and that's not supposed to be happening.
So part of the point, Mrs. sort of like Luigi was asking too. So it will help show the best routes, but will this mean that maybe partway through the year a kid is riding bus A? But did he really answer it?
Yeah, he said no.
Okay, so you wouldn't. So even if this route is then faster and kids been on one bus and they switch, they're not going to switch.
No. Since we're a county that has contracted routes, our routes have kind of been established, and they're not as flexible as something that we're going to change on a daily basis.
So this is maybe to improve the way a route is run as it's set, as opposed to how you could change them up?
Yes, I mean, I can talk with my contractors if there's a different way that this suggests other than the way they're running it. If it's faster, I could show them how it's faster. They're the ones paying for the fuel, so, surely they'd want to do it a little bit faster.
Okay.
We have seen some changes as far as like the overcrowding. There's one bus that we had, bus 23, was really kind of overcrowded, plus it was barely making the hour and a half time. So we've noticed that there's another route right next to it that finishes in probably 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So that gives us an opportunity to take, about 6 to 10 stops off of that one route to move the other route to kind of balance that out to save time. So that we don't have that hour and a half issue.
So some kids will be switching buses.
But it shouldn't be in the middle of the year. But
Oh, okay, that's
would be,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the July project reports from Mr. Clark. There's a lot going on in the maintenance department. Additionally, I wanted to just share with the board that the maintenance department has purchased some software where they're going to be able to monitor, all the maintenance needs in the county. And what that'll do is it will help us kind of keep track of some of the high-end equipment, like these HVAC units, and we can keep a good record of maintenance on it. Also, it's going to help us with our inventory, and so when they go to work on a piece of equipment, if it needs a belt or needs a fan or a compressor or something like that, we'll know if we have that in our inventory. We can pull it out. We can track the number of man hours, maintenance hours we spend on each piece of equipment. I think it's going to give us a lot of good information. And the last thing on the director's report is the personnel report. So we had a busy June. The status and information document that I provided the board is wrong. It's changed. It changed probably the day that I sent it to Patty. It changed this morning. We've had a lot of things going on in HR even today. So I thought I would also provide the board with a little bit of information, collecting some data for the school year at the end of the status report, just in case you're interested in that. And I think each month we're going to do the same thing on the personnel reports.
And it seemed like there were a surprising number of resignations. I mean, and maybe that's just the end of the year, but do we have a sense of where they're going?
Where they're going, they're all over the place. Some are going to Alabama, some are retiring, some are going to Tullahoma, some are going to WCA. It's just all over the place.
Okay.
And we do the exit surveys, and not a whole lot of response. We probably about maybe a third or a fourth of the employees that exit complete the surveys. We're collecting that data.
Remind me how they get that survey, please.
Well, there's a couple of things. Whenever we send them a letter with, telling them thanks for working for the school district, please complete the survey, and we give them the login. But I also go in and I put their email address in, and they get an email from me asking them to complete it. So
They have two opportunities to fill it out. Thank you. So there's one lady on here that has transferred and then has resigned. It's the same lady.
we had a few that quit and then they decided to come back for various reasons. So
Okay, so Treva Burris?
Burris, yes.
Mhm.
So
So
we-
is she
we-
resigned or is she?
She was going to transfer. She was going to transfer because of her license endorsement.
Uh-huh.
But then she decided to take a job in a school where her grandson is.
Okay.
Anything else?
Speech language pathologist, do we see any applications? How many do we need?
Well, we have one that has applied and been interviewed, and we want to hire her, and we're working on that. So,
And how many do we need? Just
I think
one?
one, yes.
Special ed teachers, are we okay in that department?
I think we're gonna be short one now, if I can remember correctly.
Okay, not assistants, but the actual teachers.
May I ask Rachel how we're doing with the online parents filling out the form? Is that doing well?
Yes, I think I've talked to well over 100 parents today, getting them their login information so they can get in. That's just the one part that's been the hiccup, is the parents don't know their login. So we have definitely learned what we'll do different next year. Make sure they have that before they go home for the school year. Everyone I've talked to today was happy and pleased. So we've learned things along the way. We are first year to do this, but I think so far so good.
Well, good,
Yes,
thank you.
Nothing else, we'll move to the legislative update with Ms. Marhesky.
Let's see. So these are not necessarily new in the moment updates, but things that I haven't shared yet or that everyone may not yet know. So TSSAA now allows for a one-time varsity athlete transfer without a physical move if the first time the student transfers to another school is due to a significant academic, social, emotional, environmental, or mental health need. The sending school's administration must attest that the move is not for athletic or disciplinary reasons. And then there are dates set for this, and it can begin apparently today. So this is a big shift. I think that the legislature wanted it to not be a one-time thing. They had a bill in the works, and that went away. It may come back, but this is the way things stand for the moment. A few new and updated laws. One of the public chapters authorizes districts to enroll kids of employees who are out of zone in voluntary pre-K classrooms if there's room. One of the issues with students moving is how do the test scores count? So they made it official. They have to be in your district for 50% or more of the year for their scores to count for your school district's letter grade. Another athletic related thing. So before, homeschoolers could play for the school for which they are zoned. Not any school in the district, but the school for which they are zoned. Now, this is also true for students who attend out-of-zone virtual schools. Because before the virtual students weren't eligible, now they are as well. And now TISA funding, that one of the rules is that your funding can't drop more than 5% from one year to the next. They've adjusted that to say, oh, but that only applies to funds generated by non-virtual students. So, a few updates. Next month, I'll have at least one resolution for us to discuss that we would send to TSBA, but does anybody, since last month, has anyone thought of anything that they feel passionate about that we should put forward?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
To go back.
Yeah,
Back
sure.
on that, you must attend the school to get your letter grade. Say that again.
Oh, so if students are moving during this, let's say someone comes here in February and they take the TCAP, their test scores will not count in that school's letter grade for the state because they would not have been in the district for more than 50% of the year. If they moved here in November, it would be included.
So what about the ones, does that have anything to do with children that are out in zone?
No. This is only students who come.
It's only the amount of days they're here?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Then kind of the other big news is President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which passed through Congress, and the president signed into law on July 4th. I'm sure there's more in there than this, but Chalkbeat had an article that highlighted 6 things that could impact public schools. Here's what Chalkbeat had to say. Medicaid cuts will hurt school budgets. They say that this is the 4th largest source of federal funding for schools, and schools in rural communities where a higher share of kids are enrolled in Medicaid and where schools often play a big role in providing health care are likely to feel the cuts more acutely.
And I think, if someone knows more than I do, please correct me, but I think some of the needs of the special ed students, the students with an IEP, specifically, to give an example, maybe it's physical therapy, which is a medical modification that we make to the plan, but it's billed for some students through Medicaid. So we will still have to provide that, whether it's OT or PT or something else related, someone that checks the sugar for diabetic every 3 hours. I mean, I can go on and on, but sometimes those students are on Medicaid, and that's covered by Medicaid, through Medicaid, and not through our general budget. So those are some of the ways that we could be really hurt by that.
Another one is that SNAP cuts could limit free school meals, and so they're looking to make cuts to who's eligible for SNAP. And so that's part of how like the free reduced lunch kind of thing works, which could end up reducing our like free lunch numbers. And so if fewer kids qualify for free school meals, schools will get lower reimbursement from the federal government. And we, like at this point, as of this school year, 10 of our 11 schools had free lunch for everyone. So depending on how it could affect how much money comes to the schools and our ability to do that. The boost for immigration enforcement is likely to affect schools. This could happen in different ways depending on our own kinds of numbers. And among other things, it could increase absences and have an impact on health and well-being of students. Take list. For number 4, they have the new voucher-like program will pay for private schooling. So we now have vouchers through the state of Tennessee. Now the federal government is adding a different program. So it says, tucked into the bill is the creation of a tax credit scholarship program that will pay for private school tuition. Individuals can knock $1,700 off their tax bill if they donate the amount to an organization that awards scholarships to kids who attend private school. So you can donate and get that much money as a tax break, but that also means money's going to places where they will then pool it to give scholarships to private schools for kids. So it's really a potential to have like a double.
Is this the way that, I mean, the bill has it changed?
I think this is the final signing.
Is that the final?
That's my understanding. But it says that it's optional for states, so states have to opt in. I would assume Tennessee would opt in.
But at one time, you could donate up to 10% of your income.
They changed that. It's only individuals. It's just $1,700, but there's no cap on the amount of tax credit payouts. So they at first, the House or the Senate maybe said there should be a $5 or $6 billion cap, but they put no cap on the amount
that could be donated to this scholarship fund. So let me,
because that means, let's say we each donate $1,700 to this fund, right? That means the government then doesn't get each of those $1,700 from us
in taxes.
So the money that
what that means is if you have a child that's going to a private school and that tuition is, say, $9,000 a year, and you have the state of Tennessee voucher for a little over $7,000, and then you donate through a scholarship fund an additional $1,700 that wraps around and comes back to finish paying or almost paying off that child's tuition. But how that will benefit you is when you file your taxes, you get $1,700 back.
But also because the money is going to go to the scholarship groups, someone's going to be awarding that money to kids also. So there's sort of even the potential for further money to people. Well, if this is up to the states, if you have thoughts on this, you can be in touch with our state legislators about this. Sharing your thoughts. Let's see. Number 5, Pell Grants are now available for workforce training. So before, to the best of my understanding, the Pell Grants were only for students going to college. But now there's going to be a workforce Pell Grant that can be spent on training programs that last 8 to 15 weeks and lead to some kind of credential or academic credit toward a degree or certificate program. It says the training would need to prepare students for jobs or industries that are high skill, high wage, or in demand, and governors and state school boards would decide which programs qualify. But this one says the Congressional Budget Office expects the program will be relatively small to start, just $17 million in the first year and $20 million in the following year. And then their final point, number 6, the child tax credit bump excludes many low-income families. So apparently the bill took the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,200. So you're kind of like, oh, that's better. But apparently a July analysis by someone whose full name I cut off by excluding part, sorry, and others found that 19 million children are in families that would only get some or none of the revised tax credit because they don't earn enough money. So you're like, oh, the people who need the biggest breaks then aren't getting them. Just a reminder, during the pandemic, the government temporarily raised the credit to $3,000 per child and $3,600 for younger kids, and it supposedly made a huge difference to child poverty. So this one's kind of a mixed bag.
Could that money be used, that tax credit money be used for childcare? I mean, it could, couldn't it?
But I think it's just how much comes off what you owe in your taxes. So I mean, it's kind
It
of
would be from this hand to this hand.
and then one more recent update. Said the Trump administration has declined to release nearly $7 billion in federal funding that helps pay for after-school and summer programs, support for students learning English, teacher training, and other services. And that's just sort of the opening of the article. There's more on it, so some of the funding may come through, but sort of at this time when school's going to be starting, $7 billion is a lot of money, and it sent a lot of schools and districts into a panic. Anyone have anything else to add? I know it was a lot, but there are lots of potential ramifications.
I'll just add that I've heard within the last 2 days that there are school systems within our Middle Tennessee area that have canceled after-school programs, after-school childcare, already done that. Think of the position that puts working parents in when they are trying to buy the milk and bread and pay the taxes and keep the lights on, and this after-school program allows them to work that work schedule or work, normal work day, but now they no longer have childcare.
But this doesn't affect us.
I haven't heard that it affects us yet.
As far as ESP or?
Yes and no.
As far as ESP,
No.
Yes.
Federal part, yes.
the one.
So what does that mean
The
then?
federal funding, so they have frozen
Parents can't
two, 3, and 4. They have frozen Titles 2, 3, and 4, all of our funding for that. We can't make any claims. We are waiting to close out last year to see how much we have to roll over. Now that does not affect Title 1, which is low poverty, and it does not affect.
Actually, high poverty, but
High poverty. And it does not affect IDEA, which is the special ed department. That federal funding will not be affected as far as we can tell. So it is Titles 2, 3, and 4.
And can you remind us what 2, 3, and 4 are?
Yeah, what are they? What are they
Title
getting?
2 is where we pay for our instructional coaches and also teacher professional development. We do have a small pot of general purpose funds for professional development, and I'll be talking to principals about that when we meet next week, the week after. And then it also pays for our instructional coaches, and Judy and I'll be looking, once we get our carryover, to see how far we can carry our coaches through this year, and then GP pick them up something if it does not get unfrozen, and then next year we'll just make a decision about what to do with them. Title 3 is where our 6 EL teachers get all of their materials and supplies. So I'm meeting with them tomorrow to find out what they absolutely have. They obviously get the $200 teacher funds, but they don't get textbooks and things like that like a classroom teacher does. So those funds have been used to do that. There weren't a lot of funds there. I think it was around 13,000, Jeannie. There was a nominal amount. And then Title IV is where we had paid Carter last year to do our string band. So that's frozen. So
But she was considered an instructional coach?
we have actually, we're going to move her into an instructional coach because of our science adoption, Ms. Leakey. We wanted her to be able to focus with those teachers on science and use the string band in that way. And yes, she will be an instructional coach for this upcoming school year. So we'll see. And they still haven't given us like final allocations. We're still operating on FY25 for our Title I budget as well as for our IDEA budget unless something's changed, Jeannie.
No, that's correct.
And if these monies stay frozen, then we would have to turn, maybe in the next year's budget, to the general fund, to the county commission.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Appreciate it. All right, that takes us to item J, which is finance. Ms. Jenny, a couple of budget amendments.
This is the one that I sent you guys. Again, it is just simply rolling over grants from one year to another with the increase in TISA funding. I think it was $86,000 more than what we had in the budget, so that is a good thing. And then the second one I did not get a chance to send you guys is just grants for the coalition. It's all in and out money.
Jesse's grants, basically. Correct. Any questions on those?
Motion to approve the July 2025 budget amendments 1 and 2.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Morhansky. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. That takes us to new business. And ladies, if you would like to take a couple of minutes.
Can we go to the top of the agenda?
Yes, of course.
Ms. Schultz, Ms. Markowski, and I were invited to attend a workshop training. It was called a convene.
The select convening.
Instead of convening in Franklin last week. It was at the Marriott, but it was sponsored by the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. The Governor's Early Literacy Foundation was established in 2004, and it was established under Governor Bredesen. And I think it's kind of been under the radar for much of the last 20 years, maybe the last 15 or 18. One of the initiatives that you will all recognize is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And that kind of comes under that early literacy initiative. But we were invited to go and learn a tremendous amount about early literacy, about resources for early literacy beyond the Imagination Library. I talked with someone from Bookham. We talked to librarians from all over the state. We talked about what's available for our early learners, our daycare, pre-K students. Great author speakers. We very much enjoyed that, and it made me come away and think I want to write a book. But then I thought I'll have to think like a 4-year-old if I do. So I guess I will shelve that idea for now. But had a lot of swag came with it, and I brought some of it tonight because I thought y'all would enjoy it. And we got to toot the horn of lots of ideas and lots of presenters. And Sarah, please give us a demonstration, because these are 200 of these going off at the same time.
You can tell it was an enthusiastic early literacy crowd as opposed to, say, the high school teacher kind of crowd, which is the one with which I'm most familiar. Imagine a room full of this.
Times 200.
But you have to figure out how to use it first. And you had to figure out what it was. Then you had to figure out you had to blow through the hole. And it was they explained it to us, but I'm thinking, what is this thing?
Let me tell you too, and these are ideas, it's all it is, but we did talk to the director. She's gonna come down and meet with Sarah and with me and Sandy too, if she's interested. But we're gonna look at a storybook trail, maybe a Mountain Goat Trail up in Swanee. And it could certainly be any place in the county. I think we have one in Timmsford Park, but maybe we need.
Maybe we need
City Park as
You have
well.
another city park.
But they also have access, but they said they can help provide new books for those spaces, and so.
We can renew those that we already have, and we maybe can get another one off the ground. And grants to do this.
And that was part of the exciting thing too, I think, realizing that there actually is some money in a time when so many things are being cut. There actually is some grant money
money to do
available, it
that.
sounds like, for some literacy support for the community, so.
Another idea that I think is pretty phenomenal is to take maybe the stream van, maybe a bus, but to turn it into a book bus or a book van, particularly during the summer when we are feeding children, I hope, all over the county. Then we could partner with that. I guess, does the food come in a truck or somewhere to the cafeteria?
I think people go to different pickup locations.
Anyway, to the location where the food is available, and have the book bus or book van there. And this Early Literacy Foundation will supply the books, and it's not a checkout. It's not check out and bring it back. It's simply come choose a book. And for many of our families, especially those from poverty, they don't have books. I'm telling you, they have access during the school year, perhaps through their classroom, but when they go home for the summer, they don't have print in their homes. And so this would be another way to promote reading and access and support the value of early literacy. I could go on about this for a long, long time, and I won't because we have lots more on the agenda. But just know, we had a good time. We learned a lot. We made a lot of connections. I'm telling you, a lot. I don't know about y'all, I made a lot of connections. And hope we get invited again. It was free, y'all. Now, we had some travel involved in it, but we were not charged to come to this. And the swag and the food and the excitement and all over the state. So thank you all for listening to us, and know that we had a good time. And if anyone else is interested in the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation, if you will see me, I can make connections for you or your school.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 1+1, which is the petty cash request. There were about, I think, 4 schools, 2 middle schools and 2 high schools that have petty cash requests to run their sports programs with, which is typically done every year. Don't see anything out of the ordinary there. If you don't have questions on it, we'll entertain a motion there.
Motion to approve the petty cash request for FC North and South and Home.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Roberts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Takes us to the next item, which is FY 24-25 outstanding school purchase orders. And Ms. Jeannie, would you help us out just a little bit here? First of all, just real quick, explain what those are, and then we had a little problem with one that we're going to have to go back and redo.
So these are simply purchases that were made out of FY 25 funds that haven't been spent yet. So they are considered obligated in the eyes of the state. They are considered spent. They just haven't physically changed cash in hand to where they're going. Most of these are very short, just a few things. We are ignoring Franklin County High Schools right now because we had a little bit of miscommunication and a little bit of misunderstanding. So they are going to be doing some work this week to fix their list. We will bring it back next month for that to be approved. But again, most of them are just things that they have ordered for the different sports that simply haven't come in yet, so they haven't got those bills yet. That's all that is.
So we can go ahead and approve North, South, and Huntland.
Correct.
Tonight, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
next month
We'll see
have
if
our
I
new
can
report
get
from
it.
SC.
So is it Huntland we can approve or not?
Within
Huntland, north and
north
south.
and south.
So the high school we cannot?
Correct.
No, it has to be.
It's not accurate.
Motion to approve the Halton North-South purchase orders remaining for FY '25.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Williams, a second by, Ms. Lichty. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. And Ms. Jenny?
There is nothing that needs to be done with the supply allocation funds. That got shit done. Sorry.
No problem, that's Jenny there. Okay. All right, then we'll skip to item 4, which is Dr. Alsop.
As
policy.
promised last month, we have several policies that I need the board to review. This is about half of the policies, I didn't sign them all. About half the policies that I got from TSBA, and the other half we'll take a look at next month. So I know you have a lot of questions.
I think it's worth opening each one of them and looking at how they're being modified. And if there's something in those particular policies, then we can discuss it at that point. What do you think?
I think that's good.
Okay, I'm looking at one.
I started to say specifically, because we've had them a long time to look at them, and if you have ones that you'd like for us to pull out.
Well, there's so many of them.
Well, go ahead.
There's
That's
so
good.
many of them, and I may have some
Right.
that somebody else doesn't, so.
So,
Well, just going through from the beginning, with the first one there, 1.1021.
Student board representatives.
right.
I think that.
Is this kind of all from the state, because it said it must be a rising or current senior, and is that what the new law said? Because I think we had someone who was a junior.
Well, actually, this probably should have all been in blue letter. This is just some local recommendations. I think the building principals at Huntland and Franklin High School want a little more flexibility in who is selected to be their board representative. I think the current policy is very restrictive. And so I think we want to try to open it up and give more students that opportunity. I think that was the point or the purpose in that. You can just go down.
But I guess, so my question was, I mean, because wasn't one of our students a junior?
No,
We had a student who was a junior one year because I nominated her for some award.
supposed to be seniors.
What was her name? Maybe from last year?
Was it from one of those girls, Johnson girls?
They're supposed to be
That's
seniors.
on this comment.
Okay, so,
Okay, so school district records, the only change there is we can no longer fax records. And I think, let's see, on the third page, just some changes in the language based on legislation,
And electronic transmission.
email, or if there's programs where you can send transcripts to other schools securely. That's how we get transcripts from colleges. So that would.
Are our schools equipped to do that?
No, schools email them and carry. So the district goals, Ms. Walker, do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit? We had some recommendation from TSBA, and so.
We did, what you see there, the first 3 were our original goals that we had. And these others were actually recommendations from TSBA. And what Dr. Alsop has done for us, and I think he did a good job of it, is he took their recommendations and combined our goals with those recommendations. You may see in there something you want to take out, you may see something you want to add, but this is a framework to work with. So I invite any comments on that.
so and maybe you heard this too, in Camp TSBA, they talked about how, there's like the district's like a 5-year plan and the 1-year thing, but how the school board's also supposed to set goals, and I think it goes with this bill. And so I appreciate the work that you put into this. but I recommend pulling this so that we can maybe have a workshop or a retreat and to discuss it to make sure that we agree with this, or if we have different goals or the same goals or whatever. Because one of the things that says we shall review annually with these goals, you could argue that this is the annual reviewing, but I think it'd be nicer to have a chance to have a real conversation about it.
This policy doesn't have to be approved.
We can do that.
Thank you.
It's not policy. You talked about your committee.
Yes.
Who is that? Who's your committee?
The committee, it's all the administrators pretty much.
Oh, okay. Okay, because you talked about that they were going back and looking at these things. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I get some good feedback from
Oh, I don't doubt that. I just wondered who it was.
Sure. And I started off with a small committee, but since we're not really meeting, and I just want to give everybody an opportunity to, give me their feedback, and it's been very good. So the next policy is the emergency preparedness plan. The legislators felt like there was some confusion on the fire drills at the beginning of the school year. I talked to Mr. Hawkinsmith. He didn't really understand why there was confusion. I don't think we were confused about it, but others were, so they wanted to clear that up. The threat assessment team, there was a little bit of...
Wait, so it says no more than 2 fire drills? Does that mean you could have just...
During the first 30 days of school.
Right. But does that mean we could only have 1? Or are we going to continue to have...
No more than
No
2.
more than 2. I think you're supposed to have 2 within the first 30 days.
But that's not what it says now.
No, it doesn't.
So it says you could basically just have 1.
It's
Anything less than, no more than 2.
So-
I agree that it's not clear that you have to have 2.
Because it seems like having 2, especially because you have kindergartners and preschoolers who don't really know what they're doing.
Well, it used to be you had to have 2 within the first 30 days.
It did.
So I think the next policy, threat assessment team, there's some new language on reporting. I believe it is now required to, you're going to be receiving a report quarterly. So Ms. Walker, we need to make sure we have that on the
Is that part of what No. Mr. Hawksmith brings to us?
It was,
The old policy and the old legislation did not specify how many or the interval, but the new does. Rachel, do you want to talk about the next policy, the enrollment in advanced courses?
Sure. I was the mastermind behind asking that this policy be changed. I think it's been changed historically before my time into this position. In my opinion, I think it was left kind of short and vague, and this is what you had to get into honors courses, was just the GPA and the TCAP test, and that was it. I worked with our 2 high school principals and our 2 middle school principals to kind of revamp this policy. I think all of this came out when Franklin County High School had their orientation in April. I think we started fielding a lot of phone calls from parents who were concerned because if their kid didn't perform well on TCAP, then they lost their chances of being in an honors course. And I understood that. I know it looks lengthier now, but I wanted it to be as black and white as possible and get it out of the gray as much as I could, which I know is impossible. So if you have questions on what it states now or kind of a why, I'd be happy to talk through those, but just trying to provide more clarity so everyone understands what I was telling them from the office, what Ms. Miller was telling them at Franklin County. We were all telling the same story.
We have 8th graders taking the TCAP test.
Yes, 3A is TCAP, 9, 12 in certain subjects are EOC. So TCAP through 8th grade. Yes, ma'am.
So before, one of the things that's crossed out said, teacher recommendation may be considered. Now, if you don't have that TCAP score, it's a hard no.
So what was confusing is the way it was first written, and it was open for interpretation. It says GPA and TCAP score. But then it said teacher recommendation may be considered. So is it an and? I had to have this. When did my teacher come into play? So that's where it was very confusing to read and interpret. That's why we try to make it more clear. So teacher recommendation is not considered until you get into EOC courses that are high school courses without an EOC. So right now everything is driven off of data. So it's very factual, but if you'll look down at the bottom, a student can appeal their denial if they did not have a TCAP score. that denial came out kind of based off the 3rd grade appeal for promotion to 4th grade. I kind of reworded what they used in 3rd grade and used it for this, for a parent to appeal their TCAP score.
What does that process look like for an appeal?
For an appeal, the parent would, so the way this has worked this year, those scores, I report the scores to the 2 high schools. They contact the parents to let them know they were or they were not in. If there was a parent that would appeal, they would just contact the secondary supervisor. I want to appeal, I think my student is honors, and then secondary supervisor would look at the data, the Ames Web data to see, and then where their score was. So it would fall back to this office to look at and then contact the high schools.
So the determination of the appeal would come from supervisor?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. And this also came about, we have seen an increase in students coming from WCA to Franklin County High School specifically. And at WCA, they take the SAT 10, which we take TCAP. And so just making sure our measures were the same. That's why we wanted to put that the verbiage in there about if a student's coming without a TCAP. I actually tested 2 students today, one from WCA and one from out of state. So we were trying to do this just because we didn't have data for those kiddos.
And these 2 children that you tested today, they want to be in these high level?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We just didn't have any evidence. We just had from Florida, we had a report card score. Well, we don't know what that compares to what we're teaching and do at Tennessee Standards.
Do we ever look at an international baccalaureate?
Report card, no.
Not that I'm aware of.
I guess I just have a concern that we know that testing has its limitations. And I worry, we all know people that say, I don't test well. And that can really be true. We've all known good students who can do all the things but can't do the test. So I guess I just worry that if we don't have an alternate route, we can put students who could be successful in honors, which sets you just on a different path and a different track. It sort of knocks them.
There is the appeal in there if they don't test well. They can. There's other data sources to look at, so it's not that one picture, one snapshot.
Right, but that's still, I mean, the personal insight of a teacher who's spent a year with them and has seen their writing and their work across the course of a year, or that student sitting down and writing an essay in the presence of someone so you know it's not ChatGPT or something. It seems like the qualitative measures can be equally important, and these are just quantitative measures. So I'm concerned about this one.
Well, that's kind of how it was before we rewrote it. That's how it was reading, because it was saying GPA and TCAP. So up until this point, we've only looked at TCAP and GPA. That having that teacher recommendation may be considered. If we didn't have the 2 ands, then we didn't really consider the teacher recommendation. So we're trying to add, that's what I'm trying to get away from, is just having a GPA and a TCAP. How else can we look at a child? Because I have fielded many phone calls of children who I think this will apply to, that they can appeal their TCAP score because they didn't have one good TCAP day. So that is my intent, is to help these kiddos through that appeal process.
So I think she's going to be looking at other pieces of information.
Not just,
not just report card or testing.
Sure. Yes. Yes. And I think it's also important, and not to question any teacher's intelligence or authority or what they have seen in 180 days. But the more data that you can pinpoint, your opinion on a kiddo and my opinion might be a little different. So if I have hard evidence to back up my claim, I think that helps too. So just trying to help get some more concrete information for a kiddo is important.
But I do think that sometimes students, especially if they're interested, can kind of rise to the occasion, which is something that should be encouraged. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Any other thoughts or questions?
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next policy, virtual education program, it gives some additional reasons why we might go to a virtual program. It just adds a few things to our current policy. The next one, the use of internet. This is,
Wait, just a quick question about the virtual one, because we're going to have a virtual school.
it doesn't have anything to do with that program. This is something that would be like if we go into a pandemic type of situation, or credit recovery, or using virtual programs for alternative school.
So, but then, if this is called the virtual education program, what is the other one called then?
What do you call that program? Val?
Virtual alternative learning school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is different from that.
I mean, it does say it's temporary, but I just wanted to, because
Sure.
This would be for alternative school students?
Sure. Yes.
Could be.
It's for
Could
your
be.
traditional brick and mortar kiddos
Right.
who could benefit from a virtual option, whether it be, maybe we don't have a teacher to teach an accelerated Spanish class. We can offer that particular kid that virtual course.
And it would be they would be at the alternative placement going to
And
virtual
they would be at if they're at Franklin County High School, they would be at Franklin County High School. Yes.
For enrichment, homebound students can use this, a way for them to get
You
credits.
mentioned pandemic. Is this kind of a forward plan if something were to happen?
I'm not predicting anything.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying, is that kind of what you're looking at?
Sure.
Because you mentioned the word pandemic.
Sure.
And I'm just saying, is this kind of something you're looking ahead that if it were to ever occur? Is this,
This is something that we could go to, yes.
okay.
I think it has value for homebound.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
don't want to overlook that. It has value for homebound.
The next policy, use of internet. This has, I think they're concerned about students getting on our network and getting access to social media. And program software that does not protect students against disclosure, use or dissemination of their personal information. So, reporting student progress. This is going to be significant on our progress reports for our students in the K through 8 grades. We're going to be required to add some additional information to those progress reports. Then the next one is employment of retirees. It's what we're doing. They just gave us a lot more guidance on how we can employ retirees. We have several that we're employing now, I think 5, 6, and we're really glad to have them. Substitute teachers, this is a good one. We can now use a substitute that for 30 days instead of 20 that is not certified. So that'd be handy. Interrogations and searches, this is terrible law. I'm not gonna lie, this is a terrible law. But whether we like it or not, we have to abide by it.
Can I go back to the substitute teacher?
Sure.
Okay, line 18. Retired teachers serving do not have to have active teaching licenses shall be paid as the same. I understand that. When we get to line 22, and I looked at this today when I was going over all of these changes, when substituting for a regular teacher who has been absent for 20 days, and we changed that to 30, is that instructional days?
Yes.
Okay. Does it need that word in there maybe?
Sure.
Yeah, I think we used to say 20 days is a month as far as instructional time is concerned, but they're now saying a calendar 30 days of instructional time rather than the 20 days that we have before.
I just read it twice because I thought, well, does that just mean if you're out for the whole month, even if the weekends are included in that 30 days?
We've always counted them as instructional days,
Okay.
20 days. The other thing, the retired teachers, they don't have to have a license unless they want to get paid as a teacher. Once they go past used to be 20 days, we need to take a look at that as well. If they want to be paid as a teacher,
They have to maintain their license.
they have to have a license. So,
Now, is that, okay, so if I wanted to come back and teach for Franklin County and I did not have an elementary license, then I would not be paid as a licensed teacher?
that's correct.
Okay.
If you had your license but didn't keep it renewed, you
still wouldn't be
If it's
paid.
not renewed, it has to be a valid license if you.
But if it's current after the 30 days, then you would be paid as a full teacher.
And I can probably get you a license if you want.
You can work. And the only reason I'm not applying for a job.
Okay.
But
We have an opening, so.
I was in conversation yesterday at a birthday party for my cooperating teacher when I was a student teacher. She turned 90, and I was so delighted to see her. She's still alive and breathing. But somebody at that event who just retired was telling, this was Tullahoma obviously, that after so many days, they did double the pay.
It's a lot more, yes.
I mean, they did double the pay, but I don't think the license, I'm not sure the license played into it. I'm not sure.
It probably did.
You think it did?
All right, what were you saying about the interrogation?
Okay, interrogation, so, our building administrators have to be trained. There has to be some training from the State Department before they're allowed to conduct any searches. And I've not heard anything from the State Department about that training, what that's gonna look like. So I don't know, we need to get that done because we're getting ready to start school in a few weeks, and it doesn't, just because it's the beginning of the school year doesn't mean that we don't need to be, conducting searches. So anyway, enough of that. Just a few other edits from.
Just a question about that. So, part of the new things that were added, searches by school personnel, all the following standards of reasonableness must be met. Like a particular student has violated school policy, the search will yield evidence of the violation of school policy or will lead to finding dangerous weapons. Can you give an example of what that might be?
We have to have reasonable suspicion, which is a little less of a standard than law enforcement.
But like it says will yield, not like may
Well-
yield, which seems
Well, if you see a kid with a pack of cigarettes,
Yeah,
sure.
if we have a
yeah, like, whatever.
reasonable suspicion that somebody's got a vape or drugs or a weapon, if we obviously that's kind of a judgment call on the administrator's part.
But if somebody reports so-and-so has a knife in their backpack.
We're searching.
Then number 2 says a school administrator shall be on site at any principal-initiated search. I mean, could the principal be the administrator on
Yeah.
site? Okay.
Aren't these typically done with another witness though?
I'm sorry.
Aren't these typically done with another
Yes.
witness?
Yes.
I would assume that would be good
Yes.
also.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next policy, student discrimination, harassment, bullying, cyberbullying, and intimidation. I think what the legislators were looking at here is to include anti-Semitism in the policy. On page 3, it doesn't, the law doesn't specifically say that the elementary schools can't report, and we want elementary schools to report if there's a violation of this policy that's serious enough, so I think that Mayor should take that part of the sentence out. And then we're going to skip cell phone policy.
Wait, can I just make
Yeah,
a quick
last.
comment? So part of what I think is great in these policies, and it's probably been there, is that, there should be a report, on this and a report on the threat assessments and whatever. And so I wonder if it's possible to have a calendar so that we can get that information.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about, that Mr. Hoppersmith is supposed to bring to us
Right.
forward.
Okay.
He tells us how many that
Dres
there's
is,
been.
it's written this, he's done a report before.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes we are like, oh yeah, we should make sure we get this, but then we don't. So I'm wondering if maybe we should just.
So I think we'll try to get that on the board
doc.
calendar. Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm going to toss this question back to Sarah, because is there not some new legislation about students who are found to have bullied about their driver's license?
I've not heard that.
I think I heard they could have their driver's license suspended, and somebody's nodding, so somebody else heard that. Or delayed.
Delayed for a year.
Delayed for a year if they're not yet of driving age.
Well,
Is there a protocol to fill out so that we have a record, a detailed record of what each instance is?
Well, they're on but it's skyward. So, I mean,
I know, but the one I saw last year, the principal was told he had to follow the right protocol. So I'm just wondering what that protocol, I mean, there's certain things that have to be entered in, and that evidently wasn't on there, and that threat assessment wasn't.
I don't know of any protocol, policy, or administrative procedures.
Okay.
You know, they're trained. You know, they've been this.
Right.
So let me talk real quick about the student wellness policy, and that basically has increased the amount of
We're going to do the cell phone one last?
activity. I'm sorry.
We're going to talk about cell phones last?
We are.
Okay.
The physical activity, minimum of 40 minutes each day. All right.
I have a question on that one. How are our high schools going to handle that 90 minutes a week with your lonely schedules?
Well, let me tell you how I did.
Yeah.
If I can help you out there, Ms.
Please
Miller.
do.
So I
This is
would
great
provide
question,
my teachers with some suggestions on how they could do physical activity. Maybe, 45 minutes in, they can do a little bit of whatever. And it's hard to monitor. It's almost impossible to monitor or keep track of that. And if they found time to do that, they did. If they didn't,
So is it just something that
it's not police.
I guess, what do the students do for 90 minutes a week at a high school level where you have basically free time to exercise? What do we do with them for 90 minutes a week?
Are you talking about for PE classes, or are you talking about just physical activity?
No, the new law that says they have to have 90 minutes a week.
Again, provide them with some suggestions and some options on some things they could do. They could take them out to the track, they could walk the hallways, they could do some squat tricks at their desk or something, some whatever.
So does every class period just designate a few minutes?
Are you asking me?
Whoever wants to answer.
There was some point several years ago, I don't know if you remember, when this came about and we had times during the week where the whole school went to the track and it was a complete nightmare.
Sure.
The scheduling is
So I'm planning to get very creative in helping my teachers to come up with some more individualized strategies to meet this requirement. And I will fill you in on how that works out. Will that work?
Yep.
But I'm fully aware of.
I was curious how that, I know you
It
can't.
doesn't go well.
You can't turn
It doesn't go well.
an
When you
entire
turn
school out
1,200
for.
kids loose for 90 minutes, does not go well.
I think our instance of finding will probably go up a little bit.
Hey, fun times.
not bad.
And so one of the other additions is that physical activity shall not be withheld from a student as a form of punishment. And I know excluding kids from recess.
Right.
So we're just going to sort of make sure that that doesn't happen.
Sure. Again, all the principals they've seen the policies, and once the board does what they do, then they'll get policies that have been approved. And there's several things in there that I'm going to specifically point out to them next week.
Fantastic.
Backtracking, and ABC News, I'll have the date on July 1st. Starting July 1, 2025, any minor found guilty of bullying or cyberbullying in a juvenile court will lose their driving privileges for 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess the key being there in juvenile court.
Yeah.
Hey, I can, you bully my child, I can see this growing. Sorry. Don't like bullying.
Okay, so the cell phone policy, added language, recommended language from TSBA. And to be honest with you, this is not a whole lot different than our current policy. This is the feedback that I got from the policy committee. You know, the K-5, no cell phones, 6-12, a little more, you know, a little more use is allowed. I believe that, yeah, I mean, there it is. So, the other thing that we had to add had to do with the emergency communication plan on page 3.
So did you get any recommendations from the board principals that it involves the most? What's
The
their
elementary
opinion?
principals did not want students to have cell phones in their classroom, in their building, so.
Say that again, please.
The elementary principals,
No, the 4 principals at the high school and middle school.
I did, I got, I think from all of them, and they pretty much felt like this was the way we needed to go with the cell phone
So
policy.
they were satisfied with the way the cell phones went last year, use in the cafeteria and the hallways and.
You know, it's a lot, you know, it would be a full-time job for somebody to try to police a more, you know, more strict policy.
This one looks very similar though to all the ones I've read online too. There's not a lot of difference.
And I know Warren County has a very, very strict policy, and we can do that. You know, we would need to take a look at the, you know, the punishment that would be involved in how we want to enforce that. But they're even going to have to change their policy some to comply with the laws.
I do think it's worth considering though, because I mean, you know how it is, you go out to eat and like people at the same table are on their phones instead of talking to each other. And kids learn a lot of things from school, right? They learn how, you know, they learn how to write, they learn math, but they also learn how to interact with their peers. And if we let them, like, I think it's worth considering having additional phone and screen free times. Like, I mean,
Ms. Miller, what does it look like in your cafeteria when they are there? Are the students interacting? Are they on their phones, or what's happening?
We still have students that do interact, but just like, you know, real life, we have students who want to use that time to, you know, they do use some phone time during that time. You know, this is not really part of your question, but unsolicited information. Like Chris Hobbs at Warren County, like they did, you know, if we wanted to hit that head on, like you're saying, Miss Sarah, and say, you know what, this is not a school zone, we're gonna have face-to-face interaction, we're gonna do this, 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 and this, it's gonna take a real effort from all of us to stand with each other, because you guys know we are gonna have to hold the line. It's gonna be a complete, y'all know what it's gonna be. And so it almost feels like we would need a little bit more time to work together on, you know, this was pretty quick from the state, and it looks kind of like what we already have. And I'm not saying that we would be totally get something like that if you guys, if that's what you guys wanted, of course, and we all got together and held the line. But it's gonna be tough. And the cell phones are the way. I mean, that, you know, we don't want to be without our phones either. Like, it's the way of the world, and no, it's not going. But at the same time, Ms. Sarah, I understand completely what you're saying, and I agree with that as well.
But you're gonna spend a lot of time disciplining.
All
And
day,
that's gonna be.
every day.
Well, it's just like Ms. Sarah alluded to earlier, you know, parents want to know where their kids are, to the fact when they're on the school buses, and now you're going to say you can't use them.
And
You're going to have your phones, can't take your phones to school.
I think the backlash would be unmanageable.
It would be a
It
But
would
that
be.
policy from the state even says now, like, if kids, it pretty much is like, if there's an emergency, you know, they should be able to get in touch with their children. And so it would be a complete and total
Nightmare.
It would be a nightmare, and we would all have to be, you know, y'all are gonna have people blowing you up and mad, and y'all know how it is. And so we're obviously gonna serve at the pleasure of the board, but
You
Just try
know,
to
maybe
decide what
once a
discipline
month
you need.
or twice a month, we have a phone-free lunchtime or something. And maybe that kind of addresses Sarah's concern on a very limited basis.
During our PE time, man.
There you go. There you go. There you go. They can do that during the PE time,
During
sir.
our physical activity.
It's not PE time, it's.
Two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, Lord.
you do a great job. I'm glad it's your job.
Thank you.
So does everybody eat lunch in the cafeteria?
Yes, ma'am, we have 4 lunch periods, and they stagger in, they have about 30 minutes, each period for lunch.
Like what if just the cafeteria were a no phone zone instead of the hallways, or like, I mean, like, I don't know, think about the elementary school, they put the cone on the table and you couldn't talk until the cone went off the table to make sure the kids would actually eat lunch, because otherwise they would just talk to their friends, which is the opposite of the problem.
Would you like to be the one to police that with that cafeteria full of 11th, 12th graders or 10th graders?
It's hard to enforce.
It's hard, I'm telling you, it's hard.
It's funny that we sit here and discuss this, like this convention we were at, there were 7 people at a table, 6 of them were on their cell phones.
It's
You know, so I mean, that's how dependent.
It's hard to tell
Yeah,
kids not
that's
to do
nuts.
something that the parents are doing that every night.
Yeah.
I love to tell the story of going into a restaurant and seeing a family sit down. It was like 2 children and 2 adults, or 3 children and 2 adults, so they all sat down and all of their heads went down. And I thought, nice. They're saying grace together. And then I did a double take. No, they were all looking at their phones.
Look at, I saw pictures this week on social media of people at the beach. And they're lined up on
Oh,
the
yeah.
chairs and they all got phones out at the beach.
What does it take to get a phone confiscated? I mean, what does the student have to do? Is it just during
They're-
classroom time, or?
They're supposed to have, and a lot of the teachers have spaces for kids to turn their phones off in the store when they come in the classroom. A lot of kids. If students are given permission by their teachers, if they're looking up something that's related to the lesson or something like that, it's okay. But if the teacher has expressly said, put the phones up, we're having class, and during instruction, if you see that phone, then you would take the phone, and of course that would go to administration, and then we have steps from there on how many times.
The parents have to come pick it up.
The first time they can get them back at 3 themselves, and
The student
then
can.
next the parents have to come, and you can get to a point where you have so many violations that it can get into some serious stuff, so we're policing it.
But when you said, Jenny, that they have a place where they turn them in, is that something all teachers do?
They don't all do it, it's their discretion at this point. Several of them do. They have like the little shoe racks that hang on.
Does that work though for them?
Well,
Would that be something that would work for everybody?
It does for the majority of kids. Some of them will, they have 2 phones, and so they're over here trying to do this, but their other phone's over here, and we spend time dealing with, even with them, during breaks, before school, after school, at lunch. But we pretty much draw a line on the teachers. We give
That
our
would be a
teachers
serious
a phone.
violation if you ask them to turn their phone into this area, and then the child has another one. There's where you could have a violation right there.
Yes.
You also have a serious violation when you tell them to give you the phone and they refuse to do so.
Exactly.
The parent backs them up with it.
But do you have kids that refuse to put their phones in? Okay.
Yeah, and that's then you get into all kinds of disrespect, insubordination. I mean, it escalates very quickly to something way more serious.
The other thing I wanted to point out on page 2, line 34 through 38 is redundant, and we need to take that out. So. It was right before I went on vacation, sorry.
Quick, grammar thing, line 40, I might say, the Franklin County Board of Education, its schools, and its employees do not assume responsibility. Because with nor, you expect neither or some other negative at the beginning.
All right, let's look at this now. So what we're saying is that we want to pull the district goals out, correct?
Say
Yes.
that again.
We want to pull the district goal policy, 1.700 out to discuss at a later time or have a workshop, or to work with that. Is there any other that you feel that needs to be pulled for further discussion?
Did we modify some?
The threat assessment, I'd like to,
Some edits on the cell phone
I'd
policy.
like to do that threat assessment and just see what that involves and what they have in place for that.
3.204, is there, do you have a specific question?
Well, I'm just wondering what the setup is and how, you know, what information needs to be in there for it to be accepted as a threat.
I think we can do that, that's not gonna be a part of the policy as such. See what I'm saying? That's gonna be more like,
SOPs versus a policy.
Well, we
as a
could
procedure.
just talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, no,
that's,
that's-
yeah,
I mean, I think we can pass the policy without having,
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
yes.
Dr. Also, I don't know if it's important or not, but I noticed that the way the cell phone policy is saved, it's attendance of non-resident students. It's saved as a different thing. I thought that might be tricky later, like pulling that up.
Which policy?
Cell phone.
Okay,
It's just saved as the wrong name on your
okay.
file.
So you can make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve these policies with the exception of 1.700.
So if I want to vote no on a couple of them, do you want me to just say, but no on those?
No, you can say no.
I'll say no on all of it.
You said with the exception of 1.7. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams and a second by Ms. Roberts to accept all the policies with the exception of 1.700, which we'll pull out and talk about it another time.
Do we need to add to that motion with the noted modifications, even if it was it seems like as we went through them, we noted a couple of minor things that we were gonna correct.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Nay?
Okay. All right, that carries. That takes us to L, which is a discussion of the Director of Schools evaluation instrument. Ms. Marhinsky, I believe you asked that that be placed on here.
Yeah, so last time we talked a little bit about my suggestion, but we didn't have a vote. And so again, the proposal was, so I want everyone to have some time to think about it. So the proposal for this year was to continue using the evaluation tool that we've been using as our official tool, but also as kind of a practice or sample, use the new one to see what we like, what we don't like, if we would prefer to go in that kind of direction. And for some of the items in there, we would need to get, like the ones with the test scores, we would want to get the information from the district so we could answer those. I think that was one of your concerns last time, Linda, because like without the input, it would be hard to judge those. So we would want to get that information so we could accurately give scores.
And I think I actually reached out to Dr. Alston, and he put the ball in Amy Sanders' court, and she sent took the actual document and sent the test scores, so they're there. I mean, I have them, and I can share them with anybody who might like to have them, want to plug them in to that rubric on those last 2 pages. There was some, like the value added, the TVAC scores. We won't get those for this year until October, so we would not have that information. We would only have something maybe from a previous year. And we've got Ms. Rachel here, and she can probably underscore this. I think it's important to look at the scores, but it's important to recognize if you're looking 3rd grade this year and 3rd grade next year, it's not the same students. And so, you know, with some reservation, but I still think it's important to see them and important to see the percentage of students that were proficient or nearing proficiency. And just as a PS, that's why I felt like this early literacy was such an opportunity for those of us who went, because it is those third grade literacy scores that are causing a lot of trauma in families and teachers and kids. So anything that we can learn to help that we can contribute. I think in order for us to get valid information from this board as a whole, then we all need to do this. And I've worked through mine. It doesn't really take that much time other than, and again, I'll give you the scores that Amy's provided for me, but it doesn't take that long to look at the rubric and then put a score in. You may think it does, but it does not. And is this a Word document? So if you wanted to type in,
You can tap into it, because I did.
if you wanted to type in a statement or a qualifying statement or something, that option is there. It just doesn't show up as a comment slide, but you certainly can do that. So, what are you thinking, Sarah?
I guess I'm thinking, maybe we make a motion that we do add this as a trial for this year, to see what we think of it.
I don't understand why, once again, why we are looking at a different method of evaluation. And also, I don't think it is I can't justify in my brain why we would evaluate our director using the test scores, because it involves so many factors, it involves us, it involves principals, it involves teachers, it involves students, it involves parents. So to use that as part of his evaluation, or any director's evaluation, I have a concern with
But
that.
would you have to fill that part in?
Well, that would be my recommendation.
That's what I was
that
saying.
If we
You can
were
take that
to
out.
try and, I went ahead and filled it out.
I filled out the rubric, but I didn't.
But I put non-applicable
Right.
with the
Exactly.
scoring, the testing part.
So we don't even have to put that in.
Because I
though,
made
because
the
we use
comparison
rubric.
between the two, which is what I thought we were going to discuss. Compare the two, talk about the two, and then decide, do we want to change, do we not want to change? But if you compare the two, you see that there's a lot of common places. But I still can't justify in my mind, and that's just a Linda Jones opinion, why the test, the data, would be part of an evaluation of one person.
I think that this is exactly why kind of going through the process could be helpful, because I think that by doing it, we could be like, I feel good about this. I think we would want to, but we don't want to switch to this at all after we've tried it and taken a look. Maybe we'd say, in the future, this is not something we want to keep. Maybe we want to add a different one, but just.
So do you want to leave out the data part of it, is what she's saying? That's basically what you're saying, is not put the data part in.
Well, I think
I don't, well, if you look at that data, it is a 1 to 5 on the rubric, and again, as
Well,
you're
it's not
saying.
the time process. I want to look at the data, I want to know the data, but I don't want to evaluate one individual for the
And
data.
I think we can look at the data, but say, this would not be part of the evaluation, and it's what I was pointing out, we don't even have, during this evaluation cycle, we will not have the value added, we will not have that, so we would be looking at old data for that, and of course, it doesn't show up this way on the report cards and the things that go out that the general public says, but if they look at 4th grade ELA scores, and it says Franklin County collectively scored 32.6% on that achievement. And last year they scored 31%. You're not talking about the same kids. You're not looking at the same children in the same situation with the same teachers. So there are limitations to the data. It's an indicator. It may give us a place to, or the people like our administrators, our principals, and our director and coaches and so forth. It gives them some indication of where they might need to look or focus, but it doesn't, as you said, maybe big figure into his evaluation or anyone's evaluation. I don't know. I think it's important we fill it out. I think it's important we look at it. And it's not, this one is not going to be in the evaluation anyway this year.
There's so many different indicators, you know, that you can look at, and I mean, I filled mine out already and turned it in. So I didn't do the data part, but I did compare the two, which that some of them are overlapping. But if it meets expectations, and then it says goes above expectations, and then, you know, it does kind of give you an idea of perhaps where we are, instead of it just being a blanket thing and you have to write in what you think. You can write in on that document too. But
You
I
can
think
make
it's-
the comment
I think it's
section,
just
it's
a
not
good
that.
thing to look at and compare the two without the data.
And the other thing I would say about data is there are a lot of variables that go into parents, students' ability, teachers, schools, attendance, I can go on and on. But, you know, the bottom line, the buck does stop with the director of schools. So if there are indicators in the data that might have him or her focus on something different, I think it would be good information for him to look at it collectively and know that the board is looking at it.
Then is Patty is she gonna score both of them?
Yes, I think that was.
That
the
would give us an
understanding.
idea.
That's not what we talked
That's not
about
what I
last month.
understood.
So
Well,
I
that's
make
what
a
we're-
motion that we do a trial.
Last month, we talked about doing the old one, and then if people wanted to, was to do the new one, but it was not necessarily to be submitted, and we could discuss it if we wanted to, but it was not going to be submitted and calculated because it wasn't our policy.
I don't know what the point is in submitting it.
I just submitted it because she sent it to me.
I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know what the point is. If
Well-
we're using the old form for this year, then I don't know what the point is in actually submitting it in Patty for her to do.
Well,
it.
and she doesn't have to. I thought the point would be to compare the two instruments without the data and see which one we liked. That's what I took away
Which is
from
fine,
it.
I mean, that's
I
okay
mean,
with me, but
you
I'm
know.
just saying there's no reason to send it to Patty.
Well, I sent it to Patty just because she sent it to me.
Right.
She didn't have to do anything with it. if
But
she
I don't
didn't
want her to
want
be overwhelmed with things.
That's fine.
So then would we come back together and say, evaluation 1 or evaluation 2 and vote on which one we would then adopt for the following year?
Sure.
I mean, we've already adopted the old one, but
Yeah.
we can't change that.
Right.
And that's kind of what I thought would be the conversation this evening is, are we gonna change it, which ones would we choose for the future, but,
But how will we know unless we come together and talk about it?
that's what I
You know,
thought we would
that's
do
the thing.
tonight.
I think that for me, submitting it seems helpful to see like what information and data we get from the two evaluations, which is hard to tell if we don't submit them.
I think we submit them and get the score collectively and then talk about that.
I mean, that wouldn't be his official evaluation, it would be a sample, like someone takes a sample TCAP.
But it is going to be his official evaluation because we're submitting it, and it's part of the official record of our actions.
And it would be public.
And it would be
Yes.
public. So that's why I don't think they should be submitted or tallied. If we need to use them as an instrument for us to learn, absolutely. But when we tally and submit it on board docs, it is
Oh,
public
I think that
information,
would
and
be
it is our,
submitted. Yeah, we
part
don't
of our
need to submit it
evaluation.
on that, but there's nothing wrong with looking at both things.
No, not individually, but what's,
Well, then when would we discuss, Mr. Williams, what our, when we do the sample
we
evaluation,
can discuss it next month.
does it not become board record then? In the
A
minutes?
discussion,
The
but not
discussion
a
does,
score.
but not, but we don't, if we take this sample instrument and we use it to evaluate our director, then we have evaluated our director with this sample instrument. Now, if we want to use it next year as our true instrument of evaluation, then that's what we vote to do that. But just using it as a sample for us is one thing, but when we sample it and submit it, it becomes part of our record of our action. So-
what is the point in submitting both of them and her telling one and then telling the other and then thinking, oh, well, this one looks higher than that one? Or, I mean, is that the point? What is,
I don't understand.
Well, we
the
can
point.
tally our own,
Absolutely.
we can tally our
Absolutely.
own, and we can see if we, from that, gather, glean information.
Absolutely.
But when we come back together and discuss evaluation A versus evaluation B, and I look at the rubric that's in the one for consideration, then what is our discussion gonna be that does not become public record?
Well, you don't have to discuss how you score.
Right.
Yeah.
Our scoring, that's what I'm talking about, is we can't say, well, I gave Dr. Holman a 3 in this, but if I'd used the new rubric, it would have been a 2.
Yeah, or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
It might be something like more information, more specific information was laid out and detailed in option B, and I prefer the information that I scored there
Right.
without giving a score.
Right.
Because I think either intentionally or unintentionally, once we publicly say our evaluation of him, that becomes our evaluation of him. It's not turned into anyone for him to get a grade. It's for our and the public's knowledge. And when we publicize that, it becomes their information.
Could he glean information from evaluation B document that might be helpful to him? Do we address that on a board member by board member conference then? I mean, I think because it is more detailed and because it gives you a wider range of numbers, of the numbers, and the numbers tell a lot, then I can do it and then I've just learned from it. But if I do it and only I have learned from it, but you haven't learned from it, or we haven't discussed it, or we haven't batted it around, then I'm not sure what the point is.
Well, I would say, just like we talked about last year after the evaluations, that I would say once everyone finishes their evaluation, submits them to Patty. You also submit it to the person you evaluated. I mean, that's common courtesy. And then if you want to discuss that evaluation with him, or if he has a question, then that's certainly the time for a one-on-one. That's what I did. I sent my evaluation to him once I'd submitted it to Patty and said, here's my evaluation. If you'd like to sit down and talk about it, I'd be glad to. But, I mean, I don't think any of us in here would want to have an evaluation done on us and then it just be publicly submitted with no chance to talk about it. I mean, that's certainly not what we do for our teachers. So.
And we had a workshop last year
We did.
after the evaluation.
We did.
And I can see that happening again. And at that point in time, bringing up evaluation B and saying, you know, if I had used that document, this might have been the score you've gotten. But,
Sure.
and I can see a combination of the two. Neither one of them are perfect. One of them's too vague and the other one maybe too specific.
There's some components in the newer one that we're looking at that it's very difficult. It was very difficult for me to come up with a number, a score, a rubric, because I think that's handled by somebody else in the central office. So, I mean, he doesn't hands-on everything that's done up here. And to myself, I guess it's to myself now, I noted that.
Yeah.
Well, that was her
I've
point
written
in
that
mind
somewhere.
with the scores, it's the same as the test scores. You know, there's too many moving parts in there to assign a score to that for one person.
So it sounds like there's not a lot of interest in having everyone turn it in to see our collective scoring, but perhaps then scheduling a workshop to discuss this after evaluations are in would be valuable.
Well, I think after this, if we want to go to an instrument that is different from the one we have, then it would be just like any other tool that we have here, any other policy. We would talk about it, find the things that we like and don't like, and vote on them. Now, whether that's at a workshop or just at a
Well, I
regular
think
meeting.
we have a board policy that we pulled that we need to work on. We pulled one board policy today that we need to work on. So I think what we need to schedule then is some kind of workshop or retreat to do that. And we can include this evaluation on the agenda. That would, at the minimum, be my suggestion, that it be included on the agenda.
But in the meantime, fill out the evaluation that we have been using, turn it in by the 23rd, and that's the evaluation that will be presented
This year.
to the public.
And I'll just email them over there.
So that would be
Well,
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, if not, please note the schedule of meetings and information. Evaluations are due, Ms. Patty, no later than the 23rd of this month. Our next regular board meeting is August the 11th, and the county commission meets on August the 18th. That's at 6 o'clock.
motion to adjourn?
Second.